Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Collegiate's March Madness podcast. I'm your co-host, Pierson VanGorp, here with James Herold and Jack Walker. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Doing fine.
Absolutely. First day of March Madness, at least not counting the play-in games. So we are extremely excited for that. And today we will be bringing you both the men's and the women's side, our Final Four predictions, and then at the end we'll give you some of the sleeper teams we like heading into the tournament. So first, if you'd like to start, Jack, with your women's bracket.
Yeah, so starting off in Region 1, I've got South Carolina. I think this was a pretty easy pick, considering they went 32-0 and they're fourth in points per game and overall have the best average differential in the country, winning games by an average of 29.7. I think they have a really good coach in Dawn Staley.
For sure.
She's been to 5 Final Fours, won 2 of them. So she has a good track record in March. One thing about South Carolina, they don't really have like a dynamite score per se. Their leading scorer is Camila Cardoso with 14 points per game. But the thing is, they still have a lot of depth. They have 7 players averaging over 8, and they're still fourth in the country in points per game, third in 3-point percentage. I think it'll be another Final Four appearance for the Gamecocks this year.
Absolutely. And then also that was my first team I had as well. In the bracket, I didn't see too many teams that could compete. Obviously, Notre Dame's in that side of the bracket, and I had them facing South Carolina in the Elite Eight. But I just think, like you said, they got too many players that are going to make an impact. They have a lot of players that can go out and score, whether it's 15 or 30. All of them are kind of capable of doing that, and I'm going to be interested to see how Cardoso comes back from that suspension in the round 1 game, and they could potentially take on your Michigan State Spartans, James, so
Yes.
We'll have to see that. But who do you got for that division?
So I have Caitlin Clark in Iowa going to the Final Four and going all the way.
Really?
There's no doubt Caitlin Clark, Gabby Marshall, and Kate Martin are going to show what they got in this tournament. Iowa is 5th in net rank, 4-2 record versus top 25 teams. Strength and schedule is 3rd, 92.85 points per game, 71.91 opposition points per game.
Yep.
So Iowa's all that. They're 29-4, 15-3 in the Big Ten, number 1 seed. So Iowa is clearly my favorite to go all the way, and they are facing Holy Cross, who are 20-12, 11-7 in their division, and the only great stat about them is they're 56.16 with points per game, and their net rank is 186.
Interesting. So, yeah, I do like that pick. To give the rest of my Final Four picks for the women's, I also have Iowa, but I'll get to that in a sec. In the bottom region, I have Stanford coming out as a 2 seed. I think Texas is a pretty weak 2 seed or 1 seed, and I don't even think Texas will make the Elite 8. I have Utah making the Elite 8, but Stanford beating them, so that's my second Final Four team. Third, like James was alluding to, I have Iowa. I think Caitlin Clark's the obvious best player in this tournament, and she can win any game for the Hawkeyes. And then lastly, I have UConn. I think under the best women's coach and one of the best basketball coaches of all time, they're definitely poised to make another run. Paige Buecher's coming back from injury from the last year's tournament, I think will motivate them to get there. However, my championship game, Iowa, South Carolina, 2 1 seeds, the 2 best teams in the country, in my opinion. And I'm going to have to go with the better player. I know South Carolina's undefeated, and they have all the talent, and they have a better squad, per se, compared to Iowa. However, I just think Caitlin Clark's going to take over in a game like that, and she's going to earn herself a championship before she heads to the WNBA.
If I could add, Iowa will play the winner of a play-in game, Holy Cross, and I believe
UTM, Tennessee Martin. Yep.
Tennessee Martin. They will either play the winner of that game, and I have Iowa playing LSU in the Elite 8.
That'd be a big game.
And so going on to, or actually I have Iowa playing LSU in the Final Four, with Indiana and Notre Dame on the other side of that bracket, and I have Iowa and Indiana number 4 seed Indiana playing Iowa.
Big
in
Ten,
the
little Big
championship.
Ten rematch,
Yes.
right? Yep.
Yes.
And then what's your picks, Jack?
So it appears we were on the same page because I also have I have South Carolina, Stanford, Iowa, and UConn.
No
so
way.
we were on the same page
Yep.
apparently.
Yep.
So I mean, a lot has been said already about those 4 teams. I really like Stanford with Tara VanDerveer. I think she's been there for almost 40 years. Very accomplished coach.
For sure.
And those were what I think you need in March. You need coaches that have been there before, and Stanford has just that. And I also noted that the Pac-12 in general was very stacked. I think playing a schedule like that will prepare them very well for March.
Most definitely.
I think they had 3 teams in the top 6 in the rankings. And then Iowa, Caitlin Clark. I don't think
Of course.
much else needs to be said there. And then UConn, you touched on Gino. I think he probably is the greatest.
Him or Coach K? Those two are 1 and 2 for
20
best basketball coaches.
22
ever, in my
Final
opinion.
Fours, 11 national championships. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, I just think those are the 4 best teams in the women's side this year.
I'd like to correct what I said here. I do, in my Final Four, I actually have Indiana playing Stanford, and on the other side of Iowa playing Paige Beckers and the UConn Huskies.
Absolutely.
For Indiana and Iowa in the national championship. So.
Yep, and then we will move now to the men's side of the bracket, and we'll get into each of our Final Four teams and give it a little bit of information about that. So I will start here with the first division. I have UConn making it out. I think that obviously they're the best team and the favorite to go back-to-back, and it's for a reason. They got Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer clinging just as guys that have come back and been guys that are able to contribute. One game that I'm a little worried about for them, actually I have 2. The first one will be FAU, potentially in that second round matchup, round of 32. FAU, one of the most bipolar teams in the country, is the term I like to use, because they can either score a lot and beat you, or they're going to have a bad game shooting-wise and not be able to compete. So I could see that game potentially being tough, but I think the big man Donovan Clingan will have his own in a game like that. And then the other game I want to talk about is Auburn. I was extremely close to picking Auburn as my Final Four team because they're just so hot. They match up so well with UConn, position by position, and they also won the SEC Conference Championship. So I think those are a few things that can really get them past UConn. However, I just don't think it'll be enough talent-wise. UConn just has so many guys. So my first team out of that division will be UConn.
Yeah, I've also got UConn coming out of the East region, and I mean this region, it's like a gauntlet essentially.
Goodness.
I mean, you have the Big Ten winner in Illinois, you have the Big East winner in UConn, SEC winner in Auburn, Big 12 in Iowa State, runner-up in the Mountain West out of San Diego State.
Yep.
And if you even want to go down the list, you got Drake won their conference, Duquesne won their conference, UAB won their conference. I mean, this region is unbelievably stacked. I think whoever comes out of this region, if it is UConn, I think they have a pretty good shot to win it all just because of the teams that are in here, But I think UConn will win it just because their depth. I think they have one of the best. I think they have the best starting 5 in the country. Teams like Illinois, they're good. They have Terrence Shannon, Marcus Damask. Like, they have good players. Their defense, though, has kind of struggled a little
shaky,
bit. It's a little shaky. I mean, Iowa State, I can't even really say anything bad about them.
Other than their non-conference schedule.
They're
that's the reason they weren't a 1 seed.
Right, and they're Big 12. I mean, the championship game.
Oh, that's impressive.
I did not expect that out of Iowa State.
They destroyed Houston.
It wasn't even close. So I mean, that could be that would be a good match, but those teams face up in the Elite Eight. And Auburn's another. I think they have a sleeper. They won the SEC. That's a very good conference.
Absolutely.
But again, I'm still taking UConn just because I think they have the best starting 5 in the country. The resume stacks up. I think they'll be the favorites to win that region.
Absolutely. And then James, who do you got out of the East region?
So I also have UConn, and I have them beating South Dakota State University in the Elite Eight.
Ooh.
So UConn this year, 31-3, number 1 record. And they have a great starting 5. Season leaders for the UConn Huskies, you got Blackman, Newton, Clingan, and Swanson, Newton, all leading in points, rebounds, and assists. Blackman with points with 21.5 points per game. Newton with 15.2 points per game.
Yep.
Klingon with 7.2 assists per game. So.
Yep.
I want to say Newton was first team All-American as well,
Yeah,
I believe. So, yeah, that guy's, I mean, he's almost
Aaron Jones' cousin, too.
Aaron Jones' cousin. It just runs in the family, you know, yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add about UConn?
So UConn, I feel like they have the depth to make it all the way. I do have them as stumbling against my own Michigan State Spartans.
Interesting.
There is bias there. I would not be surprised if UConn does go all the way and does beat maybe South Dakota State and
San Diego State?
San Diego State.
Yep.
Yes, that's who I meant. San Diego State. And I wouldn't even be surprised if UConn was even playing a team like Duquesne in the Final Four. Because Duquesne, they are currently, I'm not sure if this is correct or not, but they're currently 18 seconds away from beating BYU. They're leading 65-62. And I would not be surprised with their depth if Duquesne makes it all the way.
For sure. I think.
And another one of my picks for the Final Four is James Madison University. I saw James Madison beat on my Spartans first game of the year, coming out and shocking the nation against Michigan State. And I would not be surprised if they make a big run. I also have Oakland University, which is a Michigan college team, and I have them going all the way. I would not be surprised if Marquette instead makes it, because Marquette is the number 2 team and it probably has a lot more depth than Oakland does. But I do see them making some sort of run. I would not be surprised if they make the round of 32. So I do have James Madison beating Purdue. I would not be surprised if Zach Edey and Purdue have a talented Final Four and make it. I have MSU and James Madison in the Final Four, and I have 135 points to be scored in that game.
And then who do you got between James Madison and MSU in the final?
I got Michigan State, but James Madison will. If this does become a game, I do see James Madison playing their tails off the entire game. But even if it's Purdue, Michigan State, or Purdue, James Madison, or some other matchup, I still see either Purdue, James Madison, both of those teams playing their tails off, fighting to the end.
For sure. Yep, so just to update, Duquesne did win. Duquesne just beat BYU by 4, so that'll be a team to look out for, like you said, James. And then Jack and I, we can get into our picks as well. The second team I have in the Final Four is UNC. This is a team I'm extremely high on. I think that they have arguably the best mix of guys that are returning from former Final Four runs. Like a guy like Armando Bacot, who's seemingly been in college for 10 years.
Yeah,
it seems like
it, yeah.
It's been forever. So I just think the leadership there, a team to watch out for when they play against UNC is Michigan State. And I think Michigan State can really give UNC some problems. They also have experience. They have Tyson Walker, A.J. Hogard, and Jaden Akins, who are really leading the ship right now. And Xavier Booker looked extremely well in that tournament game. So watch for him. He's a freshman, lengthy player. And then another team I have that could maybe give issues in that division, this might shock everybody, it's New Mexico. New Mexico's an 11 seed right now. They're, in my opinion, the hottest team in the country. I don't know many teams that are playing like that and also have the star power like New Mexico does, because they're in the Mountain West, and obviously that's not a Power 5 conference. However, the Mountain West has kind of built a name for themselves, and they also, New Mexico specifically, has some of the best talent, in my opinion.
I mean,
right
yeah.
now.
The Mountain West, I think, was a 6-bid
Yeah.
conference. That says enough right there. I mean, I thought that New Mexico was severely underseeded.
Oh, most definitely.
I feel bad for Clemson.
I feel like a
you know,
lot of
yeah.
a lot of those Mountain West teams are underseeded.
Oh, I feel bad for Clemson in a way that they got the draw with New Mexico. I don't think New Mexico's an 11. I thought they were maybe a 9-ish, somewhere in that region.
Yep.
So yeah, in the West, I've got Arizona. I don't think this region is like as top heavy as the East region is.
Most
I think it's a lot more unpredictable. I mean, I think like North Carolina could lose to like a Michigan State.
I can see it
You
too.
know, I could see St. Mary's losing to Grand Canyon. I could see New Mexico making a Sweet 16. In fact, I have them in my Sweet 16.
Nope.
I could see them knocking out Baylor. You know, those happen. Arizona's suddenly the top dog in that region. I think that they have a great starting five: Caleb Love, Ballo, Larson, Johnson, Boswell. My only worry for Arizona, really, it's not like a huge deal, but Tommy Lloyd so far has coached 2 March Madness tournaments.
No.
Year one, they were a 1 seed. I think they lost Sweet 16. I want to say to Houston. I could be wrong there, though.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was Houston. They had Benedict Mathurin. They kind of, I mean, Sweet 16's not horrible, but it's a little underwhelming.
They were the number
seed.
1 overall team in the country that year, and I picked them. I remember.
I did as well.
Yep.
And then last year, I mean, Princeton, beat Arizona. I mean, that was a shocker.
A huge upset.
And I want to say did they run them out of the gym? I want to say.
No,
it was close.
It was a semi-close game, but I do believe towards the end, Princeton was starting to pull away.
And
yes.
so the track record's not great for Tommy Lloyd so far. But I don't think it's a huge deal. It's only a 2-tournament sample size. One thing I'm really looking for in this region, Sweet 16 Elite 8 is played in Los Angeles, so Arizona should have a pretty decent crowd following them. But what I really want to see, I want to see UNC in Arizona in the Elite 8. I want to see Caleb Love taking on his former team, former teammates. Maybe a revenge game. That's kind of the reason why I picked Arizona. I feel like revenge games are slept on when it comes to. They always happen. Revenge games always
most
happen.
Definitely.
So I'm picking Arizona out of that region, but I think I think that might be the closest one.
Oh,
I think that's
sure.
the one.
For sure. I almost picked Arizona too.
I think that's the one where the most chaos could happen.
For sure.
So
heading into the South bracket, I picked another 1 seed. It's Houston. Some teams I'd like to mention, like James said, James Madison I think is still underrated somehow. I think that 12 versus 5 game, Wisconsin James Madison is going to be phenomenal. And I actually do have James Madison making it to the Sweet 16 and taking on Houston, but I don't think talent-wise they can keep up with a Houston team that's so good defensively. They can shoot the ball well, James Madison can. I can't see it against Houston. So then my Elite 8 matchup there would be Houston taking on Kentucky and Rob Dillingham. I think that game would just have so many fireworks. Kentucky, like I said with FAU, is a bipolar team. They play really well against some teams. They have road wins against Tennessee and Auburn. However, they also have some bad losses. So it's kind of just going back and forth with Kentucky for me. That's why I didn't want to have to pick them. Calipari in March has been a little shaky recently.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to trust Calvin Sampson. I know he plays defense in these March Madness games, and I think that's how they'll be able to get it done and make the Final Four. So Houston is my 3rd team.
South region, we have the same Elite 8, but I have a different team moving on. I picked the Wildcats to move on. I really like their trio of Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham, and Reed Shepherd. I mean, offensively, I think that's the best trio in college basketball.
Potentially, yeah.
I mean, Antonio Reeves averages 20 points per game, shoots 51% from the field, 44% from 3. Dillingham averages 15, 48% from the field, 45% from 3. Shepherd averages 12 on 54-52 splits. I mean, they all shoot crazy numbers from 3. I think that will help play in March Madness, but it's not going to be easy to get there. I mean, if they win, they can get past Oakland. Greg Campy, Greg Campy, I'll give him a shout out, If they can get past Oakland, they're probably going to be playing against a pretty scrappy Texas Tech team. They're always trouble in tournaments.
For sure.
I know that from experience, being an MSU fan.
Oh, and a Michigan fan.
Or an NC State team that won 5 games in 5 days.
Beat UNC, too.
I mean, that team, they looked like the best team in college basketball that whole tournament.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and they got a big man
DJ Burns,
been a presence in the paint.
DJ Burns, that was the most fun I think I had watching a player. That guy was electric. But if they can get past them, and if they can draw Marquette, in the Sweet 16. I think I like their odds. Marquette's a good
Agreed.
team, no doubt about it. But Shaka's smart. He's had his struggles in March. There's
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say the last time he got to the second weekend was when he was coaching VCU, and they went to the Final Fours in 11th
Yeah.
seed. I'm pretty sure.
Could
And that
be.
was 2011.
Yeah.
They just haven't played well in March. And
Mhm.
again, I think Marquette's great, but give me Kentucky's offense.
I like it.
And I don't think there's a way Kentucky can really avoid Houston without getting to the Final Four. I think Houston.
Mhm.
I don't want to say they're a lock to make it, but
I kind of thought about picking Nebraska. I didn't even pick Nebraska to win, but if Nebraska plays Houston, Nebraska,
yeah,
they can score. They can score. I
yeah.
mean, Houston would, I think, have a little bit of some trouble
They could
defending
definitely. But I think, and then when it comes to Houston, Kentucky, it's really can the best defense stop one of the best offenses. And if they can't, I think Kentucky takes that one.
For
so
sure.
That's
for
my
sure.
pick out of that region.
Then lastly, the Midwest, you and I looking like we're having a very similar bracket
We
here,
are
just
having
one
that,
team
yeah.
difference. I have Creighton, and that might sound a little bit shocking to some of you. However, I don't trust Purdue in March, man. I think Purdue's going to have some success, at least this year. I think Purdue gets to the Elite Eight. I also like McNeese State to do really well. The one game I'm looking at right now, Creighton's up 20, playing Akron in their first round matchup, so it looks like they're going to win. However, if they face Oregon in the second round, that scares me a lot. Oregon, one of the hottest teams in the country. They just won the Pac-12 Conference Championship. Dante is one of their best players, and he actually shot 100% from the field in the Pac-12 tournament. So I really do like Oregon, but I think Creighton can get past them. And then I have Creighton over Texas as well. Texas is kind of a scrappy team. They got Max Abesmus from Oral Roberts
He's already a
back
March
in
Madness
2021.
legend. He's already
Yep.
a March Madness
Yeah,
legend.
so I can see Texas making some noise, but Creighton's got so many guys that have been there for a while now, and they have a big man presence. That's what you need against Purdue. They have a shooting presence, and they also have a wild card, in my opinion, in Trey Alexander, who can kind of go get you a bucket wherever you need. So Creighton is my pick to make it out of the Midwest.
Yeah, so again, in Pierson, pretty similar brackets. It's almost like scary how close our brackets are. I also have Creighton. I think the Midwest is another one, just like I forget what region, the West Coast region.
Yep.
I think it's a toss-up region. I think there's could be a lot of chaos happening, again, with like McNeese State. I think even Samford could pull off a win versus Kansas if all things go right for them. So you have Purdue, one of the best teams in the country, but again, they don't play well in March the past few years. It's a team you can't really trust them right now. And same goes for Tennessee.
I agree.
Rick Barnes, not a great track record in March.
Nope.
I don't know why. They're coming off a horrible loss to Mississippi State in the SEC tournament.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and we just saw MSU.
We witnessed,
a
exactly.
9-seeded Michigan State just beat them by 18. So that doesn't really bode. That's not a game you want going into the March Madness.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's just driven by one player.
It's Dalton Connect. If Dalton Connect can score 35 every game, they have a chance.
Yeah, maybe.
If
maybe.
he can't, then and that's a lot for a college player.
Oh, most definitely.
And then Kansas. They just lost Kevin McCullough for the tournament. They're entering super cold into March. I don't see a way they're gonna. Maybe they make a run. I don't see it. And Gonzaga's another weird team. They don't play in the West Coast Conference. Not a great conference. I think they were overseeded a little bit. I don't think they were 5, maybe not by much, maybe 6 or 7. So I think Creighton I think the road's open for them.
Yep, for sure.
Again, you mentioned, they have Ryan Kalkbrenner, great center presence.
For sure.
Baylor Shireman, I mean, he's been in college.
Can shoot lights out,
he can shoot. He can rebound.
Lights out.
He's a really good
Yeah,
rebounder.
I look at his stats. He's averaging like 9 rebounds.
And then Trey Alexander's a bucket as well. I think the road's set up for them. And as you mentioned, I also had a note about Oregon. I think that team can be people are sleeping on them a little bit. I think most people are picking them
at least in round one.
But then after that, I think they could cause trouble. As you said, Dante's he's a beast. I mean, if he can get Kalkbrenner's number, it might be a different game. And Dana Altman is 7-0 as a coach in the first round.
Really good success in the tournament too.
Yeah, he's a great March coach. And I mean, first round isn't the second, but still, I think it plays into that. So I would watch out for Oregon, but I still have Tennessee. I have Creighton beating Tennessee. Moving on. I think chances are they should be playing Purdue in the Elite Eight. They should.
Yeah.
I don't think Purdue has an
excuse.
So too. But again, Kalkbrenner can match Edey, and I think Shireman and Alexander are better than I think they're better than Braden Smith and Jones and Purdue's
Lawyer,
best players.
yeah.
Lawyer, yeah. So I think Creighton just matches up well, so I got them taking that
Agreed.
region.
Alrighty, in our last section, we're going to just name some of the upsets or the lower-seeded teams that we have going far. James, do you have any lower-seeded teams that you're kind of high on right now and think that they can make it fairly far?
This is definitely some bias here, but I do have Michigan State as a 9 seed.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if they at least make the Sweet 16. I do not have much confidence in Michigan State making the Final Four this year. I feel like there's a lot of things we need to work on as a team.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of mistakes we made during the year, but I would not be surprised if Michigan State does make the Sweet 16. Even if they even make the Elite 8, that would be a big surprise. But Final Four would even be a bigger surprise for Michigan
Absolutely.
State. But other than that, another sleeper team I have is I'd say from the list here, I would say Long Beach State. Long Beach State. I feel like they could make a run. Their coach just got fired.
Yeah, that was
Their coach got fired, and he was told, "Okay, it's your final season, but you still got to coach this team in the tournament." So, I believe I heard this on radio this morning that the coach told his players that let's pretty much go out and win this.
Mm-hmm.
And
And they're actually only down by 8 right now to Arizona in the start of the second half. So that could definitely happen. Long Beach State also beat Michigan this year. That's a Power 5 win. And as a 15 seed, you don't get many chances at that. So I do agree with that. Any more teams you'd like to add, James?
I really would like to see how far. I would really like to see how far just Duquesne goes.
Yep.
Duquesne goes. They do have potential. They of course just beat YU, and I feel like they could be a surprise team.
For sure.
And I see a lot of brackets being busted.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of teams that have potential to upset, and
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I'll get into. I have one team in specific that is kind of my sleeper team, and I talked about them a little bit earlier. But it's New Mexico. I have New Mexico headed to the Elite 8. I was going back and forth on this because I already had them in the Sweet 16, and I've always thought like, hey, there's been teams that have just lost random games, like Purdue losing to St. Peter's in Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason the 15 seed should have made an Elite 8. But I think New Mexico is just 10 times better than that team. And obviously, we're comparing different NCAA tournaments. But I just think I like the talent on the roster. I like the amount of scorers they have. And all their scorers are guards. And I think that will give issues to a team like Clemson or a team like Baylor or a team like Arizona even, where Arizona's got their key guys are their guards. Mm-hmm. And if you're making them defend the whole game, I think that's definitely a game that could be an upset. So that's one of the teams I have. And then I'm also going to shout out Drake. I have Drake beating Iowa State in the second round.
Tucker DeVries,
so
man.
Tucker DeVries is a bucket.
He can hoop.
He's a bucket. So I just want to mention them. But my team is New Mexico.
My team, they love McNeese State. They love James Madison. My team, the Samford Bulldogs.
I like it.
Out of, I think they play in Alabama, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Taking on Kansas tonight. My reasoning isn't so much of Samford's this great team. It's more of Kansas is really struggling right now.
Absolutely.
Again, they just lost Kevin McCullough. That's not going to be
Dickinson's
easy for them.
injured.
Dickinson's
They
a
have
bit
low
banged
depth.
up. Again, yeah. And they have Bill Self. They have a good coach to win. But I think they're just entering so cold into March. It's going to throw them off. And Samford, they're one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country. They average 39.3% from three, 86 points per game, which is one of the best in the nation.
Yep.
So they have a dynamite offense. led by, now I don't know the pronunciation of this guy's name. I want to say Aker or Acher. I don't know, one of the two. Out of Melbourne, Victoria, averages 16 and 6 per game, shoots 60% from the field. And in the SoCon tournament, last 2 games, he scored 28 points and 14 rebounds, 3 blocks. In the final, 25, 9, and 4.
Wow.
So
really
he's
good.
coming off a really good SoCon tournament. And the Southern Conference isn't great, but we've seen teams like Wofford win tournaments.
Yep.
I remember Wofford won a game a few years ago with Fletcher McGee. The teams have won in this conference.
Yep, they just need that one player that can lead them.
I just think with their dynamite offense, they'll give Kansas a run for their money, in my opinion. So that's my team.
Alrighty, with that being said, that will be it for the Collegiate's March Madness edition, 2nd edition podcast. I'm your co-host, Pierson VanGorp, here with James Herold and Jack Walker. We will see you guys later.